Hey everybody, Scoutcrafter here again. Welcome back to the show. We got a great show, a lot of stuff planned for you today, a little midweek march, so I hope you're looking forward to it, as I am. And first off, I want to give you an update of upstate. You know, now that the weather is getting warmer, we've been going up there. We got to go up there once a week to cut the grass and whatnot. But let me show you, before the leaves are actually on the trees, let me show you what I saw this week up there. Now this is the property before being mowed. You can see here the grass looks very green, but there's still not many leaves on the trees. Now the first thing I always do is quietly sneak up to the pond and look for Stanley. Stanley's my turtle, and you can see he's on that log over there. Can you see him? Stanley and his little buddy. I'm glad to see they're okay. This is before the cutting, and you can see here it's not too long, but it's easier to cut when it's not so high. And this is after the mowing, and you can see those stripes will go away in a couple days, but I'm looking forward to those brown patches going away from where we left it grow last year. Okay, so we have a few things to get to. Let's get started right away. Okay, first up, you remember a couple weeks ago we did this great machinist level we got from CC Scraps, Chris, and we cleaned it up and we got it back in service. But I was missing the tool to tighten this down. Now I had, used the wrong tool to do it. But my good buddy Steven over at On Tools, and Steven said that he was at the boot sale and he remembered that I needed a couple of these spanner wrenches to do this. Now, he sent these over. There's actually 3 of the spanner types on here. And let me show you how you find out what size you need. Now, this little radius, this little curve in here has to fit around. So if that radius is like this one here, would be too big. If you put this in the hole here and you try and close it, you see what happens. It's going to rock itself out. It's not going to hold tight. Now, this one's a little bit smaller. If we go into that hole here and we try and tighten it, it might grab, which this is, but it still pulls out a little bit. Now, the correct size for this one here is actually this wrench here. You see that one there? Now watch what happens when we put this in. If we want to loosen it, we put this in that point. You see how that circle is almost very close? And look how nicely it loosens that right up, you see? And if we want to tighten it, we go to the other side, find a hole, and we can tighten it right up. So this is the type of spanner for this particular one, but this spanner will fit other sizes, so that's what you have to see. Never throw these away because you never know when you're going to get a micrometer or something that has one of these crazy nuts with the holes in the side. So Steve, thank you so much, really appreciate it. That comes in real handy. Okay, next up, do you remember last week or the week before we did this giant nut that was given to me by Anthony Sr. and Anthony Jr. and actually it was the bolt, and I had to get a nut for it. You see here, this thing, it's a big one, right? Heavy. And well, my buddy John Fix, we all know and love John from Tennessee. John said, well, I know something a little bit better. Now inside the box, John sent 3 nuts over. The first one is this fantastic, this is called a coupler nut. And a coupler nut is meant to join 2 pieces of threaded rod, whatever, or something. But look at the size of this. And this fits this huge bolt that we have, okay? So this is a coupler nut. It's funny because with fasteners, there are so many different variations of the same. Like this here, if it's long, it's a coupler nut. If it's real short, they call it a thin nut or a jam nut, which a lot of times are meant to use in addition to another nut to stop it from backing off. If it's bigger than normal, they call it a high nut. So it's something how fasteners work, but that's cool. How a coupler nut. Let me show you what else he sent. Now, along with that coupler nut, John sent this nut. Now, if you're looking at this going, wow, it looks like a regular nut. Well, let me show you the difference. Remember how big this nut was? Well, look at this. It'll fit right inside there. This nut is absolutely huge. And I think it's about 4 threads an inch. It's unbelievable. Now, every nut, like this is a Lower Structural Fastener. That's what the LSF stands for. And these are super expensive, heavy-duty nut. The 2H and DH indicates that it's a hard nut, again, made for structural fasteners. This thing cost a small fortune, and it is tremendous. Like I said, it dwarfs this, Look at that. It dwarfs it. And again, this is just one. Let me show you what else he sent. Then he sent this one too. And this one here is the biggest nut I have ever seen. In fact, this big one here that I showed you before, look at the size difference here. Just to show you. This is like the next size up, and this is tremendous, heavy. Look at those coarse threads. I don't even know what you would get. This is like almost a 3-inch bolt this would fit. Tremendous. And look, this big one here just swims inside of it. Amazing, isn't it? And let me show you the last thing, which is really cool that he sent. He sent a washer. Now, that's what I needed for the other one, but look at the size. And again, this one here, it measures 3 1/8 inches, so it's probably meant for a 3-inch bolt. And a structural washer made out of 1/4 inch plate steel, right? Is this 1/4 inch or maybe probably 5/16 even? Let's see. Yes, it looks like 5/16. And that's how they make the washers for these big structural nuts. You can see how that would fit there. Very interesting. And like I told you, these things get crazy expensive. When they start getting up there in big sizes, fasteners get insanely expensive. So anyway, I just thought, John probably thought it'd be great to share with all of you, and I'm so happy to have them. Thank you very much, John. And we'll see what we're going to do with these, but aren't they something? Next up, I got a couple great items from a good friend of the show that you've heard me mention before many times, Frank Pollacia out of Plano, Texas. And Frank is a tool guy. Let me show you what he sent. Great stuff. Now, Frank has been a tool collector and a connoisseur of all different type of tools for many years. And as a matter of fact, he sent this copy of a really good newsletter for a tool club. And I used to belong to a tool club. It disbanded, but there are a few left out there. But this is the Missouri Valley Wrench Club newsletter. And I want to show you what a good tool newsletter looks like. First of all, they're usually not that big. It's only maybe 20 pages or so. But first of all, they have lots of illustrations, lots of special interest things, club, members, news, things like that. You can see here all kinds of swap meets throughout the country, not just in their area, right? And then again, they start diving into the wrenches and whatnot. Look at this, the hasher. Who do you know that has 3 hashers? That's right, me. Now, you can see the different type of illustration, beautifully illustrated, nice paper here. This is something you want to keep, the stock, and it's gloss paper. It's not like a cheap newsletter. Look at that. And they go through they pick different tools and they'll talk about different ones. What a great newsletter. If you're a tool club and you're looking to have a good newsletter, I would suggest getting this one and copying as much as you could, because they have it down pat. I don't know who puts this together, but just a lovely tool newsletter. And it would be something you would enjoy getting every month and looking through. Look at the old advertisements. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? And there we go. I just thought I would share that with you because I just find it so nice. I love the old advertisements and how they recopy them, and they do a nice job on here. So this is what a good newsletter should look like. So whoever puts this together, look at that one here. See that there? Whoever puts this together, congratulations. What a beautiful job you do on your newsletter. So let me show you what Frank and I were talking about. Now, it must be a couple of years ago already. I was talking to Frank, and I did I guess a restoration on acetate tool handles, which you know I love. And Frank said, have you ever tried this? And I got to tell you, I never did. And Frank said, this stuff is really good. And he says, you got to try it out. This is, Rustoleum puts this out. It's called Wipe New, and it's a trim restorer. Basically meant for the black around your bumpers, things like that, which I will be using this on my my vehicle this week. And I'll let you, I'll do another follow-up on how it works on that. But he says that this works fantastic on those acetate handles when they're, you know, cloudy or something like that. He says he just wipes them down with the, and it comes with two things. There's a prep wipe, and then there's the regular wipe. He says he does it in 2 minutes. They come out good. They come out looking good, and they last for quite a while. So let's show you what he's talking about. I had to laugh because Frank, I guess he figured, just in case I didn't have any beat up old acetate handled screwdrivers, he sent me down a few just to try out. But there are some interesting screwdrivers here. Like, for example, you know, I like the square shafted screwdrivers, but you know how I like the ones, remember, I like the ones that have the flat that runs along with the flat here. A lot of these have the triangle. But this one here, I thought is the most interesting of all. Look at this thing. Look at this thing. This thing looks like this is worthy of a true restoration, isn't it? I mean, it's an early acetate handle with a heavy duty, look at that, heavy duty shaft on here. That's, you know, this was early when they first started coming out. So this I will do, because you can't just wipe. And let's see what it says here. Bell system. Look at that, bell system. I never even seen an acetate bell system. But you can't just, I don't care what kind of chemical, you can't just wipe something on here and expect the scratches to come off. Same with a lot of them. A lot of them would need sanding. Maybe over here, something like this, right? But even that, you know, you really got to kind of scrape that off before you do any kind of wiping. But we'll do it. We'll test this one here, because you can see here it's got, I'm sorry if I was out of frame. This one here is a nice Craftsman, worthy of a checkout. One that don't have any deep gouges. Another one here. This one has some slight scratches. This one here, you could see that the tip is mangled. I'll show you. We'll see if we can't get this tip somewhat better. But all you have to do is you put it on your grinder or something, and you grind that, bringing it down a little bit. And I'll show you what I mean. We'll try and get that tip. Sometimes you could save them. So we'll try those two. And then I have one. This here is my personal screwdriver that's been my nemesis. Now, let's talk about acetate handles. The reason that they cloud up or get like this, acetate is a formula, a plastic that's made with two chemicals that are mixed together. If you do not have the perfect quantities of the part A and part B, what happens is you have a problem. Either it'll be too brittle or it'll be in a constant state of curing like this is, and that always comes to the top. So Western Forge, you can see the WF there, was notorious for making junk. They were terrible. I don't know who was mixing it, okay, because the guy hardly ever got it right. But when it's done right, the handles will look and last forever. But if you're off by even 1/4 of an ounce or something, and when you're mixing those big vats, you're going to get problems down the way. And that's what happened here. This is a professional. I bought these from Sears, but again, no matter what you can do, you can wipe it down. It'll look good for a little while, but it'll always come back. So this is a good thing to try that. So let's try these, okay? This one here. In fact, let me address this tip real quick. Okay, once we have the point established, well, it looks pretty much like a Phillips, and it will turn a Phillips screw without slipping out and whatever. How this is meant to work is you slide this up here to put that above it, put your screw into here, and then pull it down. Now that'll hold the screw until you start it into your work, and you could screw it in, and then when you have it screwed in, you could just disengage it, and that's how you start it. So We're not working on the tip, we're just doing a handle. So let's get started on these handles. We'll wipe them down with the pre-wipe and then with the actual wipe, see how these actually work. Okay, apparently I read through all the instructions on how this is supposed to be used. After you apply the wipe, you should let it sit for an hour without touching it, because apparently it could leave fingerprints. This is what we're going to attempt to do, okay? What I'm going to do is I'm going to do these 4 tool handles, and I'll do this Craftsman box that we could just see. I'll do half of it so we can see a before and after on what it looks like. And first thing we'll do is we'll get some wipes and get the pre-wipe and clean everything up. They suggest a well-ventilated area, and they also suggest using gloves, because they give you gloves in with the kit. These are different gloves. I'm going to save those for when I do the bumper of the vehicle. But here is the prep wipe, and you can see it's almost like a cloth. You see here, and it's really saturated. You see my fingers? So they're not joking around. It is a cloth, and so let's see what this does here. Okay, we'll wipe this down here, do the prep wipe, and we'll wipe it off with a clean piece of paper towel, but that should do a pretty decent job on here. It does seem like it's doing a nice cleaning job, because it's kind of soapy, right? So we'll do all the areas here, especially that little area that had here. We'll scrape that off, and then we'll do the rest of it. Okay, now we're going to use a wipe it. I can smell it. You see it says it contains trifluorotoluene and proprietary polymer. And I'm sure that's not exactly the best thing for you, but I'm going to take this here and we're going to apply it. Okay, we're going to wipe it. And again, once you wipe it on here, you're supposed to give it an hour to dry. So we'll push it over. It definitely has a strong smell, almost like an old shoe store, if that makes any sense. But we'll wipe this on here, and then I'll put it somewhere where it's not going to be touched for an hour. And same thing here. You can see what it does right away. Now, you're not supposed to put on any painted surfaces, you know, I guess when you're using bumpers and things like that, but Frank says this works great, and it does look terrific. Let's see how it dries, okay? So there we go. Now we got to let this dry for an hour, and I'll come back and show you what this looks like when it's all done. Next up, while that's drying, some other things that Frank sent was these Formula 1920 steel wipes. Now this is supposed to remove oils, dirt, and metal shavings and other contaminants while preventing corrosion. So let's see what this looks like here. Let's see if we can't get one of these out of here. Okay, let me pull this. Hold on. Okay, this is what the wipe looks like. I'm sure it's probably a mineral oil or something. I don't know if it doesn't say anything, but it's snap-on. See, it says it leaves behind a light, non-greasy film to prevent the tools from rusting. And it has the tendency to feel like that's what the Starrett tool oil is, mineral oil. But you can see I'm wiping this down. This is a tool we did not too long ago here. And if you notice, this is from Ed Buckley. And here we go. We're wiping this down. And you could see it took off some residual dirt that was on there. But you see that film that it leaves on here? You could just see it. It's a light oil film. So you could wipe down your tools. And I'm sure this will dry up and kind of stick to it. So these are great to have, huh? Again, that was Snap-on Formula 1920 steel wipes. Now, like I said, Frank's also a tool collector. And he sent over a couple hammers that he thought I would get a kick out. And it's funny because of the hammers. And you know I have quite a few hammers. In fact, one of my bigger videos is my introduction to my hammers. And this one here are two that I do not have. This is an Estwing, but it's a big, long Estwing. Probably a 20... What is I don't see where it's written here. It's a 24 ounce here, I guess, right? E3 24S. So it's probably a 24 ounce. But this is a new old stock, and look at it. Look how you know, and you could tell when it's new old stock. A lot of times they get what they call shelfware, things get banged up. Now, when they make the hammers, they dip them in like a clear coat. I don't know what their exact formula is, but it's almost like a clear enamel or something. But this might have been banged around a little bit, but it wasn't used. You could see that there's no striking marks on the head, but a little bit of rust. So we're going to take this off here real quick. We're going to wipe it, and then I'm going to show you how to get that off. First thing we'll do is take it to the stiff wire brush. Okay, we took it to the stiff wire brush, kept it moving. Now, you can see here, that little marking there, that's where the clear coat was starting to get abraded by the wire brush. So you wipe that off or scrape it off with your thumbnail. And then we'll take some wax and we'll just wax this up and to protect it as best we can, because this is new old stock and we don't want to ruin that. Okay, there we go. A little wax on there now. You would never know anything for the better. So any of these, there's a little bit of marking here, but that's not rusting or anything. That's just in the clear coat. So there we go. We're going to leave this, but let me show you the other hammer he sent in the box. And that's when this here, another one, like I said, I don't have. Where's the label on here? See what it says? He even sent the original box. T18 Tinner's hammer. Now, I did a Malco Tinner's hammer not too long ago. You remember that? But look at this. Look at that, huh? And this is an old one. And I don't have leather handle. How nice is that? Blemish, will take that off. And again, with the shelfware, was never used. However, we got a little rust here, which is a common occurrence that happens in, you know, in the box or whatever. A leather holds moisture. I always told you, leather's a horrible thing to have next to metal or anything. And back here. So what do you say we try and fix this up that it looks presentable, and do that? Okay, because that'll be a fun little project. Let me show you this real quick. This is the what Estwing used to put in their manufacturing when they put into their boxes of the hammers, and it tells you they're unbreakable handles in normal use, except wooden handles and fiberglass handles. That's the obvious one. And it tells you that you're only supposed to use it for withdrawing nails, you know, not for construction, things like that. And over here it tells you how to inspect your hammer for adjustment, you know, if the things are bent up, or if there's openings or cracks or chips, or if there's any, you know, if you miss it here. Very interesting, right? Have you ever seen this before in any of the hammer boxes that you got? Very cool. So this must be, I'm dating this probably to the 60s or something. So let's see if we can't get rid of this rust and make it look nice again. Okay, here we go. We did with the wire brush. Okay, we took off, we got the rust out of here around the rivets and everything with the wire brush. But now, especially the edge around here. Remember, these are peened over at the kind of the factory, and they're never exactly perfect. But we got rid of the rust here. Now, if you notice here, this was that rust on this side. Again, we got rid of the rust. However, if you notice, where the steel meets that top leather washer, you can see the rust starting to creep up here. You see that? That, you know, that doesn't look too good. Now, the funny thing is, when I do it, if I redo a handle altogether, I have no problem taking it to the belt sand and whatnot. But when you're dealing with one that's kind of new, so I'm going to show you, we're going to use that thin belt on the belt sander and try and knock that down. See over there, the staining? Now here's where that thin cut down belt comes in handy, because that'll really help us get to this area here, close to the leather. Even if you hit the leather a little bit, it's okay. We're going to get here and get in that edge, okay? The edge of the belt, run along the edge of that. We had a little speck of sticker down here, so I'm taking some lighter fluid, which is basically naphtha, and we're going to just wipe that off here. Lighter fluid does a great job in cleaning and removing that sticker residue without damaging underneath. So there we go. There we go, that's good. And then if you notice up here, got rid of the rust there, brought it back to a shine. You see, that's where it was really bad. Had that staining on there, it's all gone. And then we waxed it. We forced wax in there, especially with this Johnson soft paste wax. It gets really in there. And that's it. Now we're going to you know, wax up here. You see this is starting to get a little, we'll give it a cleaning here and give it a little bit of a rebuff because it's starting to dull out. That's what happens with leather. Okay, what do you think of that? The back here looks real nice, right? No more rust around the edges or anything. Over here, we got rid of the rust that was close there. Got rid of the staining that was there. Re-sanded it, you know, with a fine belt, and you know, now it looks good. It doesn't look like it's has any rust encroaching. And then we buffed out the handle a little bit so it's back to the way new old stock should look, right? What a nice example of an old hammer. Last up, Frank said a couple of great gas valves that were tapered valves. We're going to get into these. We'll do cutaways on these. Aren't they great? And one of these. Now, what do you know about that? Have you ever seen one of these before? It's funny, my buddy Brian O'Hare just sent me a picture the other day. He sent me this picture here. And I had a laugh because I said, boy, look at that. Frank just sent me one. Do you know what this is? I have a couple, believe it or not. I'm the only maniac that does. This is a hip joint. That's right. This is a hip joint. Now, they're usually you get them in salesman samples or things like that, and they're made of very exotic materials. And if you look real close here, can you see that? There we go. It's made of Vitalium. Vitalium. Can you see that? And we all know what Vitalium is. It's a nickel-free cobalt, chromium, molybdenum alloy, which everybody knows, right? However, isn't that cool? This will go into your, I guess, your hip, and this creates the hip joint. You know, they've changed over the years and things like that. They're all different style, shapes, and if you ever saw the operation, you'd be amazed at the beating your body takes to put this in. But isn't that something? And I've always found these interesting, and I wonder where this came from. Well, I wonder if Frank will let me know where this came from. Hopefully it didn't come from somebody he knows. Okay, it's been 3 hours since we applied the Rustoleum wipe new that Frank sent over, and let's take a look at the results here. First of all, take a look at my this one that's been giving me trouble. What a nice finish it has on it, huh? It's like it definitely is a coating, okay? So I don't know about that. And on the paint part of it, it's not as shiny. Like it seems like it does something with the paint. Maybe it'll come off a little bit, but definitely on the clear, you can see what a nice job it did on the clear on this one. We'll see how long that lasts because that one's been giving me problems my whole. Here's the other one. This one looks practically new old stock, right? This one had the big stripes of I guess the mange coming out. But what do you think of that? That looks real nice, right? Real glossy. And again, it's not a sticky surface, but I'm sure if you let it sit longer. Now here's one, the older one, the one that we did the tip over. This one here, it's yellowed from the inside. It's never going to get rid of the yellow, and it did have scratches on it, and it'll never get rid of the scratches. So it did put the coating on the outside, especially in the middle here. It's shiny. So, you know, again, nice results. It's I guess comparable to a coating that you would put on, like if you sprayed it with a clear Rustoleum. I think that's pretty much, I would say, the same, but we'll see what happens. We'll see, you know, how long this longevity on this lasts, but it looks real good. You know, again, nothing will get rid of the yellow and things like that, but like this one here, look at the nice shine it put on there. And you remember how cloudy that was. I didn't do anything, no sanding, nothing like that. So very interesting, Frank. I can see where you go with this. But as far as with that yellow, that Bell system screwdriver, I'm going to go old school with that one. And I'm going to do a nice job with that, sand it down. What do you think of that? And lastly, we did the box. Now, I did only half. I did the right half of it. You know, this is what it looked like originally. And this is just using their cleaning wipe and their wipe. And you can see here, it's got a nice, it's not sticky or anything. Nice finish, beautiful, right? I mean, it definitely looks nice. So if you have, this is where this product is made for, obviously. Bumper guards, things like that, bumper trim, automotive trim, and this is very similar to that. It's like a kind of a vinyl or whatever, but what a nice job it did there, right? So this is where that product really, really shines. You know, no pun intended. Okay, so in closing, we got a lot done today, huh? A lot of different subjects. Special thanks to Steve from On Tools in the UK for sending them spanners over. Of course, special thanks to my buddy John Fix. John Fix. And you got to check him out. He does great stuff. But John, those nuts are unbelievable. Never seen anything so big. And of course, my good buddy Frank Pollacia for all the stuff and the things we tried out, and for that special coating or whatever that is that works. I mean, it really made the screwdriver handles in that toolbox look great, didn't it? So anyway, I hope you enjoyed today's program. We will see you again next week. Take care now. Have a great day. Bye-bye.